Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Darya Manuchina. I'm going to tell you about our story, about our beta testing of a product. Raise your hand if you have ever beta tested a product. Wow. Have you ever tested a product as a user? Okay, great. I'm going to share with you the problems that we encountered as we were doing this. But first of all, a few words about myself. My name is Darya. I am a product owner in Kalga Astral company. I moved to that company only recently, about a half a year ago. Prior to that, I had been working as a testing, and prior to that still, I worked in mathematical modeling in the Bauman University. Now I work for Kalga Astral. This company makes electronic reporting software. And I'm going to share with you a few words about our product, new product that was just recently beta tested. First, let me show you our cool video that everybody loves. And for some odd reason, it just won't run. Oh no, it runs. Accountants and private companies in the banking sectors, both freelance and outsourced, know that your work can be simpler. Astral Chut has a very simple UX, UI. You can shorten the time it takes to do your routines and automatically file the reports through electronic cloud signature. You can do this very easily. You can drag and drop objects in order to find the reports. It's easy. You can just enter this number. The errors are highlighted. You get hints for how to correct them, and you can also review the requirements by the Federal Tax Authority, or you can also get notifications. You can also add or enter different companies, and that's just a fraction of the functions that this software delivers. Today I'm going to tell you how we created this product, how we tested it, and most importantly, how we started closed beta testing, what mistakes we made, what conclusions we made, and originally we had about 30 professionals, a team of 30 professionals that scaled the application. Okay, if you are going to create a high-load application, so what can go wrong? Nothing. That's what we thought. Just over a year ago, the managers of our company set ambitious goals before us. We were supposed to create a product for electronic reporting to a very tight market. We were in a very compressed schedule, and we were supposed to run the product through closed beta testing. So let's discuss the context of what was the story behind our product, what tasks we faced, what problems we ran into, how we actually created it, tested it, how we were getting ready for the closed beta testing, what mistakes we made, and what the reality was, and what we would have changed. So let's jump right in. So here are the tasks that were set for the team. Well, the first and obvious is a scalable architecture. So our proposal has to allow the creation of functional modes for other teams, including remote teams, and it also was supposed to allow non-product teams to work. For example, news feeds should be able to be managed by non-coders. Help for people involved in electronic document management. Also, another requirement was to ensure fast rebranding. So if our product is sold to a company, for example, this is going to be sold to the OFD platform, then we have to do quick rebranding within 2 days, deploy this product in a domain, and prepare a commercial offer. Then high load, and we're not talking about some scheduled work, but also in peak times, peak reporting times. For example, last week was completely devoted to yearly reporting, annual reporting, and there is the principle in accounting that everything is done at the last moment. Guess at what time people submitted their reporting? 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock p.m. See, 800 clients begin to submit their reports. So we have to have some killer features, because this market for electronic reporting has already been divided between TestCon and Contour, like really big companies. And what are the risks? We are not talking about the standard disillusionment of a client, thinking that I have lost money and so on and so on. But the big problem that we may run into is the blocking of accounts, the inability to conduct business, or big fines. And for our company, that can mean what? Legal proceedings, lawsuits. So we had in mind a 2-month-long closed beta testing. So our managers at the beginning said to us, guys, you're gonna have ZBT, which is closed beta testing. So we selected 300 loyal users. All of them are corporations. So we are oriented towards an HD platform. So full HD, 90% of our clients, VIPNet as local crypto provider. We also set a start date, kind of a release date. All of these ambitious tasks created some problems. And the first of them is the depleted client market. We had another product that had existed for 8 years. So the problem is migrate from one client to another, and the support of multiple platforms at the same time and many controlling bodies in one application. And this headache we experienced. The next problem, probably this is a classic problem, which is distributed team. Part of our teams were in the city of Ufa, but most importantly, these developers were responsible for the development of the transaction part. So they were developing the core of our system. And the next, which is completely counter to Scrum, is the tight schedule. It was involved. The politics was involved. The politics of the company were involved. A classical problem for any regional company is the limited resources. We don't have enough of analysts, designers, and developers. We have a constant churn of experts. They try to move to Moscow. We just launched another project recently, and 10 of the guys from the team of that project moved to Moscow. And electronic signature is a very challenging thing. It's very difficult in terms of understanding. For example, you need to submit an electronic document. You need to have an electronic certificate issued. You need to get electronic signature, and virtually, well, nobody wants to go through all of these issues. But we were able to find positives in that. For example, a depleted client market. There's a very good book, 50 ideas for how to start testing. What does it say? It says that we knew what problems users have for working with other applications. We have analyzed our competitors in forums and social media. We were able to design an architecture and to embed a solution to these problems and client grievances to our future solution. So we were able to solve many problems, and we solved the problems with cryptographic signature. Do you have a PlayStation or any other gaming console? The entry point in that business is very long. Since you buy a console, in fact, it can be an 8-hour period. Usually you buy a console and you need to get registered, you need to download a game, and you need to find for a life hack in order to get this game. But you know that in 8 hours you're going to get this game and you're going to get a lot of pleasure gaming. So it's worth it. It's worth it in terms of the client. And if we're talking about an electronic reporting application, you have a rough start, then you have a lot of issues, and you don't get any kicks out of the process. So when we were designing this application, we were not only concerned about the functions, but we thought about the emotional side of this product. And why else did we need this closed beta testing? We wanted to rewrite the Old Testament of accounting and create a New Testament. We used value proposition canvas, customer journey maps, and we worked with hypotheses. So customer journey map allows us to do what? It allows us to track how our users interact, with not only the company services, but with everything. But improving the touch point, you improve the customer journey or customer experience. Customer journey map allows us to take a completely different look at the product, have a completely different take on the problems and the pain that the customer may have dealing with certain services. So it allows us to create and design killer features that appeal to the emotions of the client. And I know that you work with different applications. If you don't want to work with an application for a long time, well, that's a non-starter. Anyway, so let's talk about our product, what our architecture was, what we tested. Given the context, we had to release into the market a highly competitive application, both technically and product-wise. So we decided to double down on new tech. Here's the stack that we use. We used .NET Core-based microservices as the foundation, and as the front end, we used Next.js and others. Why did we go for the microservice architecture? This hype is past, and people are starting to think why we need microservices. Well, because we had to think about scaling. Our company was in principle ready to invest into infrastructure, was ready to invest in the cluster. What else helped us to identify these microservices correctly so that we don't just have two small microservices and one big microservice? Well, we had enough professionals that were very highly knowledgeable in the subject matter. The people who had been analysts helped us to do the right analysis and segment the market, but at the same time we had a lot of, out of the 30 team members, we had highly skilled designers and developers that had no business background. These people had come from completely different areas, from let's say auto industry, but they were not they didn't have the tunnel vision that other software developers may have had. So we implemented Trace ID for monitoring problems potential, for catching them. In terms of the front end, we have an isomorphic application on Next.js and React. We can give the client the pages as soon as possible. Part of the load is on the servers. The client platforms are affected to a much less degree, to a lesser degree. What else? We had not only a few developers, we had a few testers. So, okay, we had to get things ready for a closed beta testing. Apart from the stability considerations, we had to be able to make the right business decisions in critical situations. That affected the vision of our product. We knew that these critical situations would arise. So we use this monthly crew of technologies, and we expect to get a completely new user experience. So what does it give us? It gives us a new I/O. That's the fastest start. But we use a normal web application, and this monthly crew, this zoo of technologies, gives us a big advantage. I've seen the presentation today about the front end. I even taken some screenshots. The average loading time is 0.2 seconds with fully rendered data. It's great when your application works that fast. So what you see here is real time. It's not time lapse, and the responsibility is given to us by self-healing check in our cluster. And of course, when we were about to go for beta testing, we had a lot of hypotheses. The most important hypothesis was that our clients are waiting for bug-free products. So we were aiming for a bug-free product. So we had very strong, strict requirements for quality. So the next question we wanted to ask ourselves was, how do we get ready for this kind of quality? So how was it? This picture, how do we test in DevOps? This picture is over 2 years old. If DevOps is a project, infrastructure, we have to test everything. And immediately we had obvious questions. What to test? How do we test it? When do we start testing? Who is supposed to do the testing? How can we use our previous experience of testing monolithic projects, and what do we need to start learning anew? The product was already under development. We asked the global testing community on Twitter, and we got the following responses: use PDD, use contract-based testing. And we decided that our strategy would be based on risks, because they are very high. They were very high in our case, and we chose the pyramid proposed by Martin Fowler. What do we have at the basis, at the foundation? Unit testing in front end, in back end, and then we have integration tests. What's after that? Component testing of microservices. Microservices are deployed in an isolated fashion with its old environment, file storage, other microservices, and here we were able to use our experience for the testing of monolithic applications. We have created a framework, but we modified it in a way that allowed us to utilize all the tests. Great. What's next? When we got to component testing, our application began to take shape and get more functions, and there we had to do load tests. What did we expect? These tests were supposed to show us to what extent is our cluster successful, how will it work when loaded, and how will it work in critical situations, how does it restore itself, and so on. And when we got to load testing, we understood a very simple principle. You don't have to use a full weight solution. You can create a light product just to jump start things up, start things. Then we use the artillery. These are the screenshots and GIFs how we use it. This is the code line that launches things and we see the load profile, and then we also indicate the resource that we're going to test. So we see how our application responds to load. Then we use the G-meter and then Yandex tag. If you look at this GIF, I see that the team in fact takes a little more time to assemble than the test itself. Okay, we have figured out the load part. The next is part is security tests. Why do we need security tests if this is closed beta testing? Well, because we're not ready to have the green camouflage scene, even though it's a closed testing, we are a storage of personal data of our users, real financial reporting data. So apart from obvious data, things like accessing documents via a URL, we shut down all our authorization services. We use OpenID Connector. Our security increased, but in terms of testing and the localization of problems, we had a lot of questions. When our testing becomes more aggressive, it becomes more difficult to test things when your security is higher. So we had to change our test generators. So what's next? Okay, we figured out the testing. The next is testing the automation routine. Different utilities for generating tests data, for deploying virtual machines, emulators, and so on and so forth. This is a huge infrastructure. You may want to ask me, okay, where is your end-to-end? At the closed beta testing, we decided that it didn't make sense, it was too expensive, the application is completely it's changing all the time, so why do we need to invest in it, any resources? Now we're using Cypress to solve these questions. And at the top of this pyramid is the research testing. We had it from day one, from the get-go, and we're trying to use here the best practices available, such as session-based testing, test tours, like brainstorming technologies, research testing through heuristics and mnemonics, and on top of this pyramid, in order to be completely sure of our beta testing, we leaned on our cluster solution, metrics, monitoring, alerting, features, all sorts of error tracking functionalities. So you have a cluster and you can just utilize it. We wanted to be completely sure of our functional part. We also changed the user experience as we worked with the application. How could we be sure that we achieved our goal? Okay, we could do it through UX testing. Since we're automating everything, we started looking into how we can automate UX, UI testing. And this was one of our biggest mistakes because UX testing, this is mostly about people, and second of all, this is about automation. Since we're developing an application for people, we begin to do our research into what UX testing applications there were on the market. And UX testing applications do not provide any added value over Yandex metrics or Google Analytics or anything like that. So we decided to use for UX testing Yandex metrics to collect statistics. We are going to use WebVisor to track the cursor of the users and to record user sessions, and Sentry for the tracking of client errors.
But all those instruments to test VIX, what is new there? They offered one thing, monitoring the direction of customer vision. But where the cursor is, there the user is looking. We use different types of testing and monitoring. You can see all the links here. The way we use the method of 6 hats, 6 thinking hats for exploratory testing. At this point, we realized that we are ready for beta testing. Now we're in search of customers or clients. We have a partnership network that sells our applications. We chose loyal partners, an array of partners, and we tested through webinars, workshops. It was targeted work with each customer. We expected a lot of problems, and we needed a focus on positive things. What were the expectations? Are we ready for testing? The team was ready. We had a nice product. We made photos. We started posting various messages, but reality is a bit different from expectations, and that is the first user. It was a direct opposite to our requirements. What was the minimal problem? Yes, he had problems with browser. We supported Chrome only. Other applications and functions were not available, and the person couldn't implement his main business activities. We focused on a certain segment of users. For individual entrepreneurs, we had only one script, one step to the left or to the right, and we had a lot of errors. Such users called our managers and say, nothing works. A manager comes to the team, and the team says, yes, we know, this is beyond our scope. We have only this task, it's in our task tracker, and our expectations didn't match the reality. And in this situation, we started beta testing. It took us 2 months. And let us talk about good things. What useful things did we get? We saw how application operates in real conditions with real users. It was not testing, it was a real operation. We gathered statistics about customer environment, about interactions with a real environment which is different from test environment. Then we realized how important features and functions were for customer business targets. The first customer bugs and the feedback was very important. It helped us to improve applications. Despite all this hell that we met, we tested a lot of UX hypotheses. For example, users clicked certain unclickable elements. We made them clickable. At the moment of registration, the customers worked with our street lights for quite a long time. We checked a lot of assumptions. Now, no one wants to customize, everything wants to work out of the box. Not all the functions and features are understandable. For example, drag and drop is not a typical function for accounting, for instance, and nobody knew about it. We taught our help desk people. We tested them, and help desk tested how to solve real tasks in a real environment. Then we got ready for practical release. We talked to the manager what are the areas of future development of the product, and we came to agreement of what we can cut away to get an operational release. What else? Technical support. We had only tier 1 support. Tier 2 and tier 3 was our team. We didn't only implement new features and functions, we also provided technical support. We realized what customers want from beta testing. Our assumption that they want a product without bugs was wrong, because our customers want a fully operational product. Maybe some features will not be implemented, but such unimplemented features did not affect business much. Because they are not about, such features are not about business, they are about convenience only. When we build a product, how available should it be? How convenient should it be? For example, we develop a car. First it was a skate, then it was a bike. No, the customer wants a business class Mercedes from the very beginning. He doesn't want a bike. Then we improved testing. We checked our strategy. We adapted and improved regressive tested scenarios. We expanded the range of test data and improved the cards for technical support. Now let's talk about problems. I mentioned many of them, but let us summarize and see the actions. First, unexpected and illogical usage of the system. For example, accountants use a web application like as if it's their local application, or they continuously close application in the browser, logging and unlogging, closure of the application through micro activities, when you just don't close the application properly but interrupt it. So it provided us with new test scenarios, new test scripts. So customer bugs which couldn't be repeated on test machines. We saw as if customers were just lying to us. We couldn't reproduce the reported bugs. So local certificates were installed, uninstalled many times, and nobody reported. As a result, we installed a better logging system. Obsolete client platforms. Of course, very often we use not the top of the world machines. We use sometimes a notebook with a lot of pirate software. And of course, when we see such a situation, and our application can behave differently, not the way it behaves in the test environment. So we start notifying customers that, well, in such non-standard environment, you can have some problems. Then, business requirements didn't match the realities, which required a lot of hot fixes. Then interactions with managers and sales. Why was it a problem? Because we couldn't learn about customer problems from the customer. So the customer talks to his boss, the boss talks to his director, and the director talks to our director, and they distort information at each iteration, just a little bit. But we have to fix a problem. We wanted to adapt and improve our applications and processes, Kanban, discovery Kanban, delivery Kanban, and so on. So, let us make some conclusions. If we do it now, what would we have changed? We would have changed the process. Closed beta tests should be controlled. If you see that some problems occur and your cluster demonstrates some strange results, switch it off, stop it, solve your problems, inform your customers, and then run it again. Otherwise, you can destroy your product and your reputation. Then define the targets more clearly for marketing, for the team, for other services. All our actions shouldn't be done in vain. They should lead to a certain goal, very specific goal. What are we going to do to improve the product? Then monitoring and metrics. We had a lot of systems like Prometheus, and Michael Bolton gives us a good piece of advice. Invalid metrics are dangerous. Don't add metrics one after another. Focus on the key ones that will show you immediately what kind of problems you have. Then alerting. Alerting shouldn't work post factum. So such systems failed. It should be predictable, and it should be proactive. It should prevent failure, saying that if you don't do anything, this thing may fail soon. Then tracking of user errors. We used Sentry. It worked out of the box just ideally. We knew all the code bugs, code errors that occurred at user machines. We had a lot of messages. We couldn't react just in time, but in a few days we still learned about such problems from technical support. It's very good if you have such a system, if it's integrated, and it not only shows you the errors, but also gives you wider information. And you should know why. Typical bugs, new types of customer data, customer platforms, non-typical or new scripts of application usage, and feedback. Feedback without third-party opinions. We trained help desk and all CGM services, not only within the beta testing, but on a wider scale. And all customers were delivered to technical support. We would build an infrastructure to support our assumptions. we should realize how we can identify success. What is the criteria of success? That's all. So closed beta testing is a very important stage in the process of developing any product. You should realize its purpose, what kind of questions you want answers to. And thanks to closed beta testing, we developed such a definition. Maturity of testing is equal to the level of your customer care. That's what we did, that's what we got as a result. I think it's useful to you. Thank you for your attention. I'm ready to answer your questions. You are welcome. Yes, please. What stack was used for testing? I told you what we used, what kind of utilities we used. As far as unit testing is concerned, we used the same stack where with .NET Core that was used to develop the product. What about late alerting? Our statistics helped. It helped us identify the cases when when we saw critical situations. So statistics helped us. How did you find loyal customers who gave you loyal users? I am not in a position to disclose this secret because the search of loyal customers and partners was done by the marketing department. Some customers turned out to be unloyal if they had problems, minimal problems, if they didn't agree with a certain feature or didn't understand if it was implemented or not. So they lost all their loyalty at once. So it's hard to say if they are loyal or not. Sometimes we expected them to be loyal, but they were not. So, user interface was developed and we had sessions with our accounting department, with the girls who worked with requirements, and we saw their reaction. When do we have to use closed beta testing? So each of you is to decide for himself or herself. It doesn't matter whether it's closed or open. You should realize why you use it altogether, and it shouldn't cause you any harm. Good afternoon. So you disclosed 4 problems. Yes, Chrome individual, yes, unmatched profiles, but it's not a problem of testing, it's a problem of analysis. Right, you are, yes. At the development stage, one would have to disclose such problems. As for the problems, yes, I told you from the very beginning we used value proposition, customer journey map, and we analyzed all the customer segments, user environments. We had a long to-do list and a backlog. The managers said, well, these are the conditions, deadlines, so let's do this and that. Okay, said we, let's do what you say. Of course, marketologists worked with customers and they told us everything. Maybe one more question from the audience. Thank you. One more last question. Thank you for your presentation. Could you specify is what you said applicable to open beta testing? My personal opinion is that there are no peculiarities that can not be used for open. You can use all that. Why did we use closed testing? Because we wanted to eliminate the problems in the process of individual work with customers. Open beta tests mean that you have a lot of users and customers and you cannot work individually. If you are sure about your product, if all basic scenarios are supported, if deviations can be supported, then you can resort to open testing. Now let us applaud, warm applause